Russia's collapse doesn't start in the Kremlin. It isn't decline in oil exports, budget gaps, bank bankruptcies, or the 5% of the workforce lost to war and immigration. It starts in the hearts and souls of ordinary Russian people. In my weekly crazy news, this is exactly what I show: collapse of people. Don't treat this shocking news as just news. See them as signs of collapse. And in tonight's crazy news, I'll show you a dozen stories that aren't just headlines. They are symptoms of nation's great unwellness. Remember, the government only does what people allow. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia. Usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian here. I am Russian by birth, analyst by choice. I lived it, I studied it, and I report it. I make Russia make sense. No BS, propaganda, or lies here. Just truth, common sense, and logic. And some emotions too, because I'm living the tragedy of my country. Welcome to Weekly News Update. I give you crazy news update straight out of the mad circus that Russia has unfortunately become. But first things first, remember that there is no such absurdity that cannot be realized in Russia these days. And I will prove it today. Now, I call them crazy news from Russia, the news of Russia that matter, and most of them you will not find in any mainstream media. They are the signs of human collapse. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight to the news. Let me start with the positive news. I love positive news. I think they set the mood for the rest of the video, for the rest of the live stream. Now, Russian government actually does things that make Russia stand out. At government's request, Russians have redesigned the most popular programming language to allow writing programs in Russian. JavaScript has been completely reformatted in Russian. Its syntax, the lingua, the words, the comments, has now been completely converted from Latin to Cyrillic alphabet. The government hopes that this will allow Russian-speaking programmers to write code without knowing English. It's become more difficult for developers to work in international organizations. Oh, sure it has, of course. Russian and English, they're kind of like different languages, and JavaScript is JavaScript. Now, I don't know, they gotta call it like Russian JavaScript, or JavaScript, or something like that. But you know what? Who cares of them foreigners? Now, in the new Russian language-based JavaScript, the command known as undefined, that's fairly commonly used in programming. Now it officially translates to как-нибудь. And management says как-нибудь and undefined has been the architecture of this new thing all along. And I'm calling them crazy news monotony, they are crazy. The next piece of news is also very positive. It's a positive corner of internet. You think of Inside Russia, you think, oh, great positive news. I gotta go and get an influx of energy, positivity. Russians have a new language. Now, that's besides Russian-based JavaScript programming language. Now, this new Russian language is called Newspeak. Allow me to give you an example. Now, I want to introduce you to a piece of this newspeak. The head of the Central Bank of Russia, Elvira Nabiulina, explained the downside wage growth, and then she did it elegantly in newspeak. Now, Elvira stated that wages are growing faster than labor productivity and are thus devaluing. Wages are devaluing, but they're growing fast. She attributed this to the low unemployment rate. Now, let me quote good Elvira Nabiulina. Low unemployment, no one will argue, is an absolutely great blessing. Every pair of hands is busy and in great demand. But in our case, there's always but. Low unemployment has already translated into a labor shortage. And frankly, I am hard pressed to find an example of another major economy where labor market indicators have remained in such stable zone all along. At the same time, the first signs of an easing of labor market situation have now appeared. This is truly encouraging, but these signs are only the beginning. I unquote Elvira Nabiulina. Now, did you understand anything what I just say? What I just said? Most likely not. Because this is the newspeak. But I understood. I did. You see, I speak this new language. Now, let me translate everything I said, well, Elvira Nabiulina said, into plain English. Nabiulina said that high wages Russians are earning contribute to high inflation. Now they in Russia start seeing declining wages. And it's a good thing because the less money Russians earn, the less money they will have to spend. Therefore, increasing inflation rate will slow down. So, Elvira Nabiulina, the master of Russian newspeak, in plain English, in front of the entire country, basically she sent this message to the entire country because, that's a public domain, her statement. In plain English, in plain Russian, she said, Russian people earning less money is a super good thing. Wow. I think I just coined a new newspeak term, monetary fitness. Well, a pay cut in Russia now should be called monetary fitness. The lighter your wallet, the healthier the economy. Huh? How about that? Now, I have a lot of good news today, positive news. Not good, but positive news. Another positive news. Who says Russia is an outsider in the world? Huh? Oh, I've said it. Guilty as charged. Please forgive me. No, that's not true. Well, at least not complete true. Russia is a leader in few things. And for example, in gender balance, well, should I say in gender disbalance, Russia is steadily increasing the gender gap and has already become one of the world leaders in the dominance of women in the population, currently at 63%. Another year or two of this special military operation, and the percentage of women can easily be increased to 75%. So every 3 out of 4 people in Russia will be females. At that rate, at the next census, they won't be asking male or female. They'll be asking female or collector's edition. Now, another news is also positive. I just, what tons of positive stuff is happening in Russia. What do you think the worst thing can happen to a college graduate? Not finding a job, obviously. Now, Russian government really helps people, and it helps students to find jobs. And we gotta thank the good Russian government for that. Um, it has zeroed in doctors. It wants to help doctors. You see, doctors are the target. Now, especially young doctors, graduates of medical schools, um, they have started helping young doctors. I want you to show this. You see, in Russia, the situation is not that great right now. It's kind of dire. Russia is short of 80% of doctors right now. Well, at least in some regions of the country. That's official information coming out of one of Russia's most powerful people, Vyacheslav Volodin. This guy right here, he is the Speaker of Russian Parliament of the upper chamber. Now, I will remove myself right now so you see easier. This guy, you've seen his face. I mean, he's the one of the most powerful people in Russia, really. Now, he said that in some areas of Russia, the situation is dire. 80% of doctors uh, missing, the positions unfilled. In other words, you come to a hospital in Russia, somewhere not in Moscow, obviously, or not in St. Petersburg, and you see something odd. Uh, Out of, there should be 10 doctors, and the only two of them present. So that's kind of odd, right? Catastrophic, should I say? Well, judge for yourself. What I'm trying to make a point is it's really, really bad. And if they usually sugarcoat everything on the top, and if they say something outrageous, something true, well, it's not true. It means that they sugarcoated the situation is even worse, right? So something's going to be changed, right? What does the Russian government do? It wants to help young doctors who graduate from colleges, medical schools. You see, in Russia right now, according to Volodin, it's so difficult to find a job for a doctor. There's great unemployment. Obviously, only 2 doctors out of 10 are present in the hospital. And it's just, I guess that's because too many doctors out there. The labor market is flooded with young doctors, okay? So, Russian parliament just adopted a new bill that says that a medical establishment, such as hospital or clinic, must hire any graduate of a medical school who the state assigns to work at such establishment. It's wonderful. You're a doctor, you graduate, you get a job. Just like that. You go to the state, or actually state comes to you and says, well, you know what, you have a job. Great, great, great. Only 8 out of 10 jobs unfilled in the industry. Well, at least the state tries to help young doctors. What do we know? But we are talking about Russia, remember? And there's always a catch in Russia. That's something they don't tell you in the news, but trust me, there's always a catch. And there's a catch here too. Every student studying tuition free, in other words, funded by the state, in medical school must sign a targeted training contract within 1 year of enrollment, basically by the time a student becomes sophomore. This basically goes like this. The state pays for your studies and you agree to work where the state assigns you after graduation. Under this placement contract, a student must work for a set period of time. Right now, they're talking up to 3 years after graduation at a specific hospital or clinic in the required province of Russia, in the required part of Russia. The medical organization, in turn, must hire the graduate. If student doesn't go to assigned job or quits earlier than 3 years, a fine equal to 3 times the total cost of education will have to be paid by such student. Say a student spends, $20,000. That's what education costs in Russia right now, and the student, graduates, and then $20,000 is paid for his studies or her studies. Then the student decides not to work or quit earlier than 3 years, would have to repay $60,000, 3 times of 20,000. Now, if medical facility, clinic, or hospital refuses to hire the graduate under this contract, same applies to this hospital or clinic. The same kind of fine. 3 times the cost of education will be applied to the hospital. That's a fine. Well, since we're talking of state-owned hospitals, I highly doubt that the hospitals will be paying fines to the state. Yeah, it's paying fine. You paying fine to yourself. Okay. We all understand who this new law is aimed at. Doctors. 3 years of mandatory work now. But what can stop good Russian senators down the road in a couple years from extending this mandatory 3 years into, say, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? They'll make just a small amendment to the law, and this is it. It becomes the law. Now, I have seen this. This system was called распределение, and it existed in the USSR, and basically it's slavery. Modern day slavery. Okay, when the state obliges you to mandatory work at a certain place, not a place of your choice, but where the state sends you, there's a huge opportunity for corruption. Those who will be decided where young doctors will go, of course, just people. They like gifts of different kinds. They like vacations. They like, they'll be in charge of placing people either in Moscow to live or work in Moscow, or say a village in Siberian East Bum, faraway place. You know what I mean? We've been here before. In the USSR, the system didn't work. Well, they're making it again in Russia. Well, congratulations, doctor. You've officially landed your first job offer with a 3-year contract, renewable until your morale improves, and we will decide when it improves. Nice. I don't call them crazy for nothing. Let me tell you something. The next piece of news is also positive. Positive news. Friends, please forgive me my sarcasm and amateurish jokes. This is my way of coping with this craziness. When I start any video, I say, here you will find, you will not find propaganda, you will find truth and emotions, because I'm a human being and I'm living through the tragedy of my country. Each news that I pick here is significant. It's very important. It has long future implications for my country, and I see my country is being ruined in front of my eyes. So this is a tragedy, and by inserting a little bit of sarcasm, I try to cope with it. Otherwise, I'd simply die. So please forgive me this non-funny jokes and this attempts, but sorry. Now the next news. What a week of news! Let me tell you something. Now, last week's talk of the town, of the country, of Russia was Elon Musk's father. He came to Russia to claim no less than his citizenship, Russian citizenship. That's right. He visited quite a few places in Russia. For example, Kazan. He visited a hockey game in Kazan in a Russian hockey league. He did many interviews with different propaganda channels, TASS. Um, Russians were hailing him, welcoming him to Russia. um, all kinds of good stuff happened to him, and he was riding in the car, and he was given the interview. He was being asked by a reporter, young, pretty reporter from TASS, Russia's prime propaganda agency. Um, and then
And how
just
do
see
you
for
find the
yourself.
level of the digitalization here?
Very high. Some of the greatest minds in the history of modern world come from Russia. So, music writers and so forth, and scientists. I mean, Mendeleev is one that comes to mind. I mean, I knew all about Mendeleev when I was a student.
Nice. Well, but I'm very impressed. Honorable Musk Senior knows Russian scientists, brilliant scientists. For example, the chemist Mendeleev, who came up with elementary system, who lived some 140 years ago, and he's been praised by Mr. Musk for his digitalization of Russia efforts. Mendeleev has done, well, did a lot of digitalization, a lot of it 140 years ago. I think that Musk Sr. deserves Russian passport for that. There's no question of that. One more thing. Check out the funfair and such a nice car he was chauffeured in. Check this out again.
And how do you find the
Now,
level of the digitalization?
without sound. Now, I will pause and I want you to see something. Now, pay attention to look beyond the reporter and beyond Musk. Look through the back window. What do you see there? Black car follows all the way. That's a nice Mercedes Maybach. They're right in it, okay? And there's Mercedes Vito minivan right behind them. I know. I've seen them. I've seen these cars in Moscow. I know. I know. They drive around government buildings and the Kremlin. It's the Federal Security Service. Now, let me tell you something. If Mendeleev did digitalization 100 years ago, then that KGB minivan that it can be seen right through that window behind must be the cloud, always following, never quite offline. What do you think? By the way, um, if you're enjoying this news, right now, and if you stop by here every Friday or Saturday or Sunday, like right now, and you like them in general, please hit the like button right now and subscribe. That is, if you aren't subscribed yet. Also, after this message is over, please leave a comment telling us which part of the world you're watching from right now and when you subscribe to Inside Russia. These messages, when I asked for the first time people to do that, I got lots of messages. And then surprisingly, it's so pleasant to read. It's like having a huge map of the world in front of you and putting virtual pins when I read the comments where you watching from, from all kinds of countries. So please do me a favor, make my day. Write where you're watching from. Thank you so much. By the way, coffee would be great too. I love English tea or coffee, just regular black, no sugar. Thank you very much. Now, enough showing the positive news, because Russia is not just all sugar and spice and everything nice. It's not all about Elon Musk, Elon Musk's father, riding in a KGB car, admiring Mendeleev for his digitalization. No, well, unfortunately, there are some much more serious and some much more tragic news come out of Russia every single week, and I've picked a couple today. Now, this is what they started teaching in Russian schools. In Russian schools and vocational colleges, they have begun to conduct so-called family studies classes according to this program developed jointly with the Russian Orthodox Church. In these classes, students are persuaded to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the motherland and have many children. So far, these classes have been held only in two provinces, in Tver province, right next to Moscow, and in the Republic of Chuvashia, that's east of Moscow. In the near future, the classes may be included in the curriculums of schools in other provinces. It makes me sad. I think of my son. Two of my children are born and raised in the USA. They went to American schools. Two of my girls um, went to Russian schools. And let me tell you something, Russian schools weren't like that. There were no classes. They studied human rights there. They studied the subject called, the class called society. They studied how um, society was organized and run, and I liked it. But that was in the past. Now, children are persuaded to sacrifice their lives for the motherland if motherland calls. But guess what? The motherland is just people, few people who run the country, who have power over the country, and they act as if they are motherland. That they don't teach in Russian schools anymore. And the next piece of news is also sad, and it's about the past. As we know, those who control the past control the present, and those who control the present control the future. Now, what's the first step to start controlling the past? To forget the past. And we are seeing just that in Russia right now. In Magadan, out of all places, in Magadan, the home of Gulag, that's where all the concentration camps of Gulag system were located, at least most of them, in Stalin times. And that's a sad place. That's a dark page in the history of Russia. Now, 35 people watching me live right now, and I'm telling you that it's something that us Prussians, a lot, not just myself, but a lot, we're not proud of. That's shame. What Russians did to Russians in the past in Gulag. Now, in Magadan, the home of Gulag, the authorities have asked not to hold events dedicated to Soviet political repression Remembrance Day, and asked, ordered not to write or mention them on social networks. In other words, they're trying to erase the memory of Gulag from the minds and from the heads of people, from memories of people who live where Gulag was. The order was verbally distributed by local authorities in the chats of teachers and library staff before October 30th. Now, October 30th in Russia is the unofficial day of remembering political repressions, the day of political repressions remembrance. There is an audio recording available online where librarians are asked not to hold the remembrance events. And that is what this message says. Regarding the events for the day of political repression, if there are no agreements with the guests yet, you don't do that. You don't organize events. Now, we have received information that is not necessary to conduct these events. If the guests are invited, have been invited, then the tickets have been sold already, then you can conduct the event. But do not write about this event anywhere. Do not make public information about it either on websites or in social networks. Just accept it. It is the current political reality, the order from above. And do not post this information anywhere. According to the source who leaked this information, it was the first time he had received such an order in 20 years of work. Up to this point, there have been no obstacles in holding commemorative events like that. Meanwhile, on the day of remembrance of the victims of political repressions, the main event in Magadan, and it was historically held there every single year, it still was held. There is a monument called the Mask of Sorrow in the central city square. The news about this event appeared, scarcely but appeared, among other things, on the website of Magadan City Hall. This year, neither the mayor of the city nor the governor personally appeared at the monument at the ceremony, but only posted on social networks. The mayor of the city, Larisa Polikanova, wrote in her Telegram channel, "Remembering doesn't mean living in the past. This means recognizing historical facts without distortions, appreciating freedom and human rights, learning dialogue and mercy, and passing on the truth to the future generations." And the governor, Sergei Nosov, was more concise. "This is a part of our historical memory, which is important to preserve without distortions, attempts to use it in anyone's interests." Now I know where the wind is blowing from. Yeah, attempts to use it in anyone's interests, of course. These memories of Gulag, Russians did to Russians, okay? Of course. You know, the evil Americans and the Westerners will be using them, those memories, in their own interests. Of course, right. Russian people in power give orders to their servants to rewrite the history. Now, friends, this isn't reading 1984 by George Orwell. This is happening in front of our eyes in late 2025. And by the way, I believe that there will be many more oppressions and repressions in Russia. They have started, they happen every single week. And I will keep you updated of that and other breaking news in Russia in Patreon account of Inside Russia. 9 news a day I find significant with my analysis and commentary exclusively to patrons. If you want to keep up with breaking news, if you want to stay on top of things Russia, consider becoming a patron of Inside Russia. It's not much. $3, $5, $10, 25, whatever tier you can choose whatever tier you want, and that gives you complete access to the information. So I appreciate very much if you give me a chance. I will place the link in this video description and in the pinned comment after I'm done live streaming. So consider becoming patron, please. If every time you sign up, you help this channel as well. The next news is, well, it's amusing, I guess. Amusing. Now, I've made this a regular part of every weekend news update. And this part is called the arrests. See, every single week. Now, every arrest was, how do I say? I made a live stream out of every single arrest in Russia because they were so rare 2, 3 years ago. Now, there are so many arrests every single week. I just, you know, make it a part of this Friday or Saturday or Sunday live stream. Now, let's talk of who've been arrested or sentenced this past week. Colonel Leonid Wax, the former deputy head of the federal police for Krasnodar province. So the policeman number 2 in the entire province. He was the head of the procurement. He is accused of forgery of official documents and abuse of power, corruption. The high ranked official is facing 10 years in prison. So the charges are very serious. And he has been investigated for quite some time. Okay. Prior to moving to Krasnodar and becoming policeman number 2 in Krasnodar province, Wax served as deputy minister of internal affairs of Chuvasha. He was policeman number 2 in another province. So his arrest was reported in the spring of last year on April 1st. So he has been in detention for quite some time. And right after he was arrested, President Putin dismissed Wax from his position by personal order. And now Wax is nearing sentencing at court. His investigation has been done. And looks like he's guilty as charged. 10 years in prison. He's going to get it. Now, why I picked up this arrest and this investigation is that there's complete silence of it. Media, silent. The officials, they have not commented as if Wax has never existed. Okay? So everyone is silent. That's today's Russia for you. Now, the next arrest is the general of the National Guard Rosgvardia. Well, it's not arrest, but it's sentencing. He was sentenced to 9 years in maximum security prison in the corruption case of taking a bribe of 140 million rubles. That's $2 million. Rostov-on-Don Garrison Military Court sentenced the former head of Rosgvardia Procurement Department Major General Mirza Mirzaev. This was reported by the main military prosecutor's office. Official information. According to the prosecutor's office, from August 2023 to July 2024, Mirzaev, using his official position, extorted money from the management of a commercial organization, a regular company, that was fulfilling the state contract for the supply of prefabricated buildings, you know, for the National Guard. So this fella, Mirzaev, the Major General, for patronage during the advance payment and acceptance of works and products and services and goods, he demanded $2 million, 140 million rubles. He threatened that in case of refusal to give him a bribe, he would make it nearly impossible for the work to be accepted and for the contract to be signed off. Nice, nice. Um, Now, this information you can find directly to this website of military prosecutor's office. If you speak Russian, you can find it. But I would like to give you something unique about this sentencing and about this situation and about other arrests as well. Um, let's take the case of Major General Mirzaev. Now, he was arrested and charged with a crime, investigated. His crime was proven. Um, and then it's just one case, okay? When he was in the office from August 2023 to July 2024, so that's 11 months. In 11 months, he managed to extort $2 million from one company. But Major General Mirzaev has been in service all his life. He's in the 60s right now. Imagine how many millions of dollars he extorted from other companies in other times. Now we're talking of hundreds of millions. That's why every time they catch an official and seize properties worth of 150, 200, 300 million dollars, cash, bank accounts, properties, this is how they generate their wealth. They use their power to extort everyone around them. It's mafia, really. They have taken over Russia. It's mafia, only it's protected by the law enforcement and by the laws. Now, um, another case: 62 million rubles, $40,000, and 2,000 euro in cash. That's how much was found during searches of home of former Sochi mayor Alexei Kapygorodsky. That's information is not being silenced. That's TASS, Russia's prime propaganda agency reporting. Okay, TASS, and it references the prosecution investigation that is being done by the prosecution. The amount of foreign currency is growing because they're finding more and more at his home. But then well over, they're looking at well over $1 million right now. They have found 62 million rubles. That's nearly $1 million, and then that's going to be more. Then there are properties, and that the former mayor owns and his wife owns. Now, the investigation into Kapygorodsky it has been done right now, but he served as mayor of Sochi from September 2019 to May 2022. Also, this information is available at TASS. You can look it up, but what you can't. Now, let's apply logic and common sense. Let's put dots together. Now, September 2019, May 2022, everyone and their brother knew that Kapaigarodsky was taking bribes. Kapaigarodsky was sharing the bribes with others, with the KGB, with the police. That's how it works. You can't keep everything for yourself because others know what you're doing and then they take their cut, right? So September 2019 to May 2022. So it's been over 3 years now, 3.5 years. Why now? Why now? Everyone knew 3 years ago that he was taking bribes. Everyone knew how much he owned. Everyone knew how many pieces of properties Kapaigarovsky had in Sochi, in Russia, and perhaps they even know about his Dubai bank account. And Sochi is a big city. So if small town officials caught with hundreds of millions of dollars, then think of how much former mayor of Sochi, the city where the Olympics took place, right? Imagine how much he has. Everyone knew, but they're arresting him now and investigating now. System is getting less and less stable because when it was stable, he would never be arrested. He's arrested now, his wife is arrested, and they can't get off easily. Things are being confiscated, and most likely he will end up in prison. That is called the spiders in the jars are out. That's a fair game now. The charges, official charges against Kapaigarodsky and his wife. And usually this is how it works. Russian officials, if they get caught, something happens, they go to prison, but not their relatives, not their wives. In this case, Kapaigarodsky's wife is with him. They're charged with accepting bribes, embezzlement, um, mediation in the transfer of bribes, and forcing witnesses to give false testimonies. Former mayor of Sochi, member of the United Russia Party, Putin's party. The cream of the political crop of Russia. The next guy, you gotta love him. The ex-head of the anti-corruption department of own security took a bribe on the renovation of the anti-corruption department in a school. You gotta love it. The former head of the Department of Economic Security, Anti-Corruption Committee Department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, that is how Russian Federal Police is called, of Sverdlovsk province, that's Yekaterinburg, eastern part of Russia. Andrei Dyakov. Last week, the court sentenced him to 4 years in high security prison. Um, he's he was found guilty. Um, he was found guilty of abuse of bribery, of corruption, abuse of authority. This is official information that comes from the regional court department. It's on their website. According to the investigation, Dyakov received a bribe of $200 million, which is nearly 3 million. I'm sorry, 200 million rubles, which is nearly $3 million, from the owner of TTK Yekaterinburg company for patronage and assistance in reimbursing value-added tax. That's a very sophisticated criminal scheme of basically stealing from the state, from Russian budget. $3 million, just one bribe, just one episode. Imagine how many bribes that guy has taken over the years. His position, I mean, he was overseeing own safety. He was making sure that other policemen didn't take bribes. Imagine how valuable his position was. Imagine the cuts every single cop would give to him. Oh boy. His sentence is not very strict. Okay. Um, Again, he was sentenced to 4 years, and he probably is going to get out soon because you must have served some time already, and that counts towards your prison time. Imagine how much he had to give to the higher ups or to the courts to get off that easily. Huh? The Major General Mirzoev, went to prison for what, $2 million. This guy went for 7 years. This guy for 4 years for $3 million. Doesn't make any sense, right? Ching. It's all about the money. Ching, 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 ching. Welcome to Russia 2025. Love these cases. Now, the investigation believes at this point, well, believed, I guess he's been sentenced already, that the value of the properties acquired by Dyakov and his close family exceeds his income by 14 times. They have confiscated also more than 400 million rubles. That's $6 million. Not too bad, not too shabby. So, what a bunch of crooks! So many arrests every single week. Now, if you want to keep up, because I post of these things daily in Patreon, consider joining. And here, once a week, I pick the most interesting ones and I present them to you. The next news, well, I'm caught a little off guard. I'm not going to tell you much of it right now. It's so important, and that's one of those things I'm watching very, very closely. It's 4 in the morning here, as you just heard. As new operating system makes this noise, I don't know how to turn it off yet. So anyway, this next incredibly important news is protesting. Now, so you understand, before August, there hadn't been any protests for 3 years, over 3 years. Starting August, protests started appearing here and there, some bigger, some smaller. They're not huge, they're not big, but they are there. Okay, and this week brought us a few protests. One protest is in the western part of Russia, in a large town. People were protesting against the blocking of internet, mobile internet, and telephone calls. Now that's a political protest because the state says, well, we're going to make your lives safer. We're going to shut down the phones so bad people can't get to your ears. And the people come and say, hey, you know what? We don't like that. We want our communications back. That's considered what can be qualified as political protesting. Now, the next protest right now, there is a large oil company, Surgutneftegas. It's a large, famous company. The workers are protesting. I have footage of that. Um, they are blocking roads around oil fields, around offices of Surgutneftegas. They are protesting against low pay, and the company has been delaying their payments. Now, that's the most, how do I say, most dangerous kind of protest because it's not political at first, but then it's very energetic. It's very massive because it usually attracts a lot of people, and their cause is just. Because if the company owes money and doesn't pay, the people got to feed their families. And when they come, what can cops tell them? Why are you protesting? Well, because we want to eat. Okay? That's a very serious protest, and it can turn into political protesting very fast in a blink of an eye. So that's something to watch. But again, I'm going to make a separate live stream either on Monday, well, one of those upcoming days, because this is incredibly important. This is rocking the boat. This is This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. The next news, well, I'm gonna mention, but I'm not gonna give them also here because they are the attacks of Ukrainian Air Force, well, Ukrainian drones onto Russian facilities, different facilities, oil refineries, different plants, military plants, and so forth. I cannot post any footage here. I can't really tell much information because YouTube bans for things like that. Instead, I will post right after this live stream ends. I post everything in the Telegram account of Inside Russia and all the materials, Elon Musk's father interview and everything I have basically, I will post to Telegram. So you don't have to become the member. If you do, that'd be great. Doesn't cost you any money. And this is where I communicate with subscribers. I usually make announcements of the upcoming streams because YouTube sometimes doesn't give the messages that live streams are coming, but you can always tune into Telegram and see them there. So either go and sign up to become Telegram member group Inside Russia, or you just go and check it out. But it's there. Thank you. The next piece of news is, well, it's personal. um, I would like to let you know that despite being followed by the Russian police, secret police, KGB, despite for being pressured by Russian state, despite for being demonetized by Google for the reasons, well, unknown, I promise you that I will continue my fight, my stand. I will not give up. I will be here every single day, except for rare occasions when I physically cannot live stream or make videos. And I will continue spreading the truth. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you for giving me your precious time. Thank you for commenting, liking. Thank you. Thanks for your support. Thank you for your coffees that you buy me at buymeacoffee.com, for PayPal, Patreon, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. The next news is funny. The head of the Ministry of Digitalization. Now, this ministry in Russia, it's called the Ministry of Digitalization. It's in charge of everything internet, including communications, digital communications. So, the head of this Ministry of Digitalization, the minister Maksut Shadayev, said that the issue of blocking WhatsApp and Telegram messengers and other digital means of communication for Russian people in the country, I quote, is not our area of responsibility now. The federal minister of communications, basically, digital communications, is not responsible for how communications work. At the same time, Roskomnadzor, this internet watchdog agency that directly implements all the blockings. It blocks the websites, it blocks the messengers, it blocks telephone calls. That's Roskomnadzor. It is the part of this ministry, and it is under the direct supervision and jurisdiction of the Minister of Digitalization. So it's Maksud Shadayev's own people who do the blocking. But the minister says, well, I'm not in the know. In Russia, accountability is end to end encrypted, so secure, even the digitalization minister can't read and find out who's responsible. Okay, before we get to the last news, the most important news, or set of news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Now, every single Friday or weekend, I do this crazy news updates and I try to do better every time. So I'm asking you for the feedback. Please let me know what you think of today's selection of the news. Please let me know, pick this three news and let me know which ones you like the most. And perhaps you didn't like something, let me know as well. So I am constantly trying to better my selection. So next time you'll get better news. Thank you very much. Um, the last news, but last but not least, that's actually the biggest one because I make the last news the headliner of these reports. Now, Vladimir Putin, Russian president, tried to scare the world last week by announcing new types of nuclear weapons. Nuclear bomb carriers, a missile with a nuclear engine, no less, and a nuclear warhead. So it's double nuclear something. This new weapon system called Burevestnik, and also he introduced a nuclear submarine called Poseidon. He also informed the world that the latest nuclear missile system called Sarmat, well, I guess it's conventional missile, has just been placed on combat duty, or actually soon to be placed in within days. Well, very soon. Putin clearly escalated the situation. Now, I covered it in other live streams. I will not discuss it here. I made another video last week where I discussed just that. I'm going to place the link right here. If you haven't watched that video, please go and check it out. It's worth the watch. Now, I tell in details of how Putin is escalating. Will he attack NATO or European countries and things like that? So, Putin tried to scare everyone, but something went wrong. Instead, he angered the American president, who admitted there is one or more advanced American submarines right next to Russia at any time carrying nuclear warheads. And it doesn't take long for the United States to, take care of things. Okay. Then American president ordered the Pentagon to start to resume conducting nuclear tests. Something America hasn't done in a long time, and Russia hasn't done, okay, in a long time. So something went wrong, and Putin has been notorious for doing things that go wrong lately. Well, always, really. So this time something went wrong as well. People didn't get scared. Most didn't believe Putin that the rockets, this new advanced systems, exist. Then Putin, well, what are you going to do when they don't believe you? Of course, you call a friend. And Putin called his friend, the former Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu. And Shoigu answered the call. He publicly urged everyone to believe Putin at Putin's request or begging. I don't know what Putin told him. I kid you not, he did. He did urged everyone to believe Putin. I'm going to give you the proof right now. This is it. This is Russian propaganda media. You can see that, a couple days ago, they released this. Again, TASS. TASS is a very official, the most official Russian propaganda outlet. Those who didn't believe President Vladimir Putin, his words about the Burevestnik and Poseidon missile systems in 2018 when he bragged about them, and who didn't believe now will have to do so, says Shoigu. Well, Sergey, I am addressing you right now. former Minister of Defense. You were in charge of all these projects and you probably took your own cut from them, most likely. But tell us now, how can we believe Vladimir Putin's words if in 2023, and right now is 2025, November, okay, the latest I checked, perhaps I'm wrong, but I'm kind of living in this time. In my part of the woods, it's November 3rd, 4:13 a.m. You know, in the western part of the world, it's a little earlier. It's still November 2nd, but that's already November, okay? And that's 2025. At least that's how it reads in the calendar. Now, how can we believe Putin if in 2023, over 2 years ago, he said that another new weapon, nuclear warhead delivery system called Sarmat, was introduced and placed on combat duty. That happened on September 1st, 2023. And this is this one right here. I want you to look at the date. You see right above the headline where it says the Sarmat complex had been placed on the combat duty. That is September 1st, 2023. The newspaper that printed this is Russian equivalent of Wall Street Journal. This is not a tabloid. This is business newspaper that it printed RIA Novosti. That's a very official Russian propaganda outlet. Another one. It's as official as TASS. So 2023, September 1st, Sarmat had been placed on the combat duty. Proof right in front of you. And now, October 26, 2025, now, just a couple days ago, the very same Putin said that the very same Sarmat to be soon placed on the combat duty. I want you to look, it's the same newspaper. I want you to look at the date, October 29th, just 4 days ago. Now, please bear with me. I'm applying logic. We have the same president, the same guy, the same newspaper, official propaganda, the same rocket missile, nuclear missile, the same combat duty. Okay. First, he says 23, it had been already placed on the combat duty. Now he says it soon will be placed. He contradicted himself. He either lied in September 2023 or he lied now. Liar, liar, pants on fire. I mean, no wonder no one believes him. No wonder he has to call Shoigu and say, hey, Sergey, can you tell them that, that's true? But guess what? Shoigu is really not the right guy because he's also hard to believe. Now, the same news, we continue. I will tell you next. It'll make you believe Vladimir Putin about Sarmat, Burevestnik, and Poseidon even less. It's really hard to believe less, but just bear with me. This news came from Karelia, and it was not the big headliner in Russia, but I suddenly picked it up because it rings the bell with me. This news came from Karelia, the former part of Finland that Russia annexed in 1940. Well, conquered, I don't know. Russia invaded Finland. The Finns, please forgive us for that. The authorities of Karelia are forming people's squads to help border guards on the border to protect the border with Finland. Now, this is how it looks like. On one side, there's Russia, on the other side, it's Finland. Now, this information was announced by the governor of the Republic of Karelia, Artur Parfenchikov. Now, it didn't even make the federal news. I picked it up myself because I monitor the local news. Okay. I monitor a lot of governors, what they have to say, their official statements, and so forth. And that attracted my attention because, well, let me quote the governor. We are currently working on the process of returning conscripts from the service, actively cooperating with the border department and organizing patronage. We are forming people's squads. That is, those who help the border guards, who know the territory well and navigate the terrain. Unquote. It is official. You can find it if you dig deep enough, if you speak Russian. That's there. Now, what you cannot find anywhere is this very uncomfortable question I have for Putin and his minions. Why do you need people's squads in Karelia if you have Oreshnik, Poseidon, Sarmat, Burevestnik, all these new breakthrough weapons on duty? Now, all these advanced weapons guarantee you have nukes. It's a guarantee that no one would touch you. Certainly not Finland. Peaceful country, fantastic people. I worked with a Finnish company for years. We had a joint venture called Sweco Group. It's a Swedish and Finnish company. And I worked with people from the Helsinki office. And let me tell you, friends, there's great people. They're certainly not warmongers. All they want to be left alone, to live safely so Russia doesn't invade them again. Okay? And all of a sudden, people squads right on the border of Finland. Something's odd about these weapons, and definitely something not right about these people squads. Putin speaks of these advanced weapon systems, but beefing up the classical force, the meat, that's an example of doublethink. You know, I told you about the newspeak, and this is classic doublethink happening in front of our eyes. Most of people are just definitely all people in Russia missing it. Somehow they don't understand. I do. Now, if you think that I'm overreacting, if you think I'm just going over fence, so to speak, going too far and crazy, whatever, let me know. But also let me know if you agree with me. Something very odd about this. More on that. A week ago, I made an announcement that the new wave of mobilization was about to start, Mobilization 2.0. Again, I'm not going to give you many details because I suggest you watch the live stream, the video, and it's right here. Okay. I made it a week ago. And guess what? I was right on target. It has started. Check this out. The civilians who are part of the active reserve, they started calling them up. 4 provinces: Tatarstan, Nizhny Novgorod, Yaroslavl, Tambov. 4 provinces, they're doing it right now. They're mobilizing, calling up active reservists. Reservists, I guess. Reservists is in Russian, reservists in English. This is a very odd publication in Russia. It's called Business Online, and a lot more truth can be found here than in other Russian medias. This is located in Tatarstan, in Kazan, and they actually do talk a lot of what other media are not allowed to say. Now, I don't know who's behind this publication and why they're doing it, but I certainly use them as reference a lot. Now, they're admitting we're the first wave. So this is being done in a chaotic, fast manner. They are the first wave. There will be other waves, many other waves. There is no precise number of active reservists in Russia. Unofficial information, there are around 2 million of active reservists. I named this live stream 1 million Russian men are set to disappear. And I tried to play it safe, stating 1 million, because I believe that many more, over 2 million or around 2 million Russian men. Now, they are being mobilized in 4 provinces en masse, covertly, silently. So it doesn't make it to any media. This is the first one I saw. There are also a couple confidential documents in my possession, not just in my, but that's out there on the internet. I'm not sure whether they're fakes or not. I have not present them to you here today because I would like to fact check first. They're very disturbing because they give the algorithm of the roadmap of, well, actually, the plan of pulling up these reservists. Now, I'll be talking about that more because that's one of those things to watch: the protests, the mobilization, the economy falling apart. This big things. Now, first waves, 4 provinces, probably tens of thousands of people right now. And these people are being promised to serve locally and protect vital facilities, industrial facilities. For example, oil refineries. Because as it turns out, there's no air defense system in Russia. Okay, so they need men with guns, literally with guns, to stand around and then shoot if the drones come at night. How they gonna do that? Well, we'll see. I'm having my popcorn right here next to me, so I'll be watching very closely how these people will be protecting. But my bet is that they will not be protecting these facilities for long, a week, couple weeks, because you see, they're the active reservists. They signed official military contract with the Military of Defense. And according to old law, when they were signing the contract, the Military of Defense was not allowed to place them in the areas of armed conflicts and outside Russia. But now they changed the law recently, just a week ago. And now they can. And that's why I made the live stream. Again, link is right there. And by the way, 4,500 people watching me, 46 now, but only 2,200 likes. Please, if you think you like it, if just please do me a favor, like it. Um, I have, I see 22 dislikes, which is perfectly okay. If someone dislikes what I say, that's normal. If you like it, go ahead and don't hold yourself. Like it. Anyway, um, I made the live stream where I explained about this situation. And now this new law allows the Ministry of Defense to place these people into the zones of armed conflict, anti terrorist operations, or outside Russia. Well, guess what? The territory of Ukraine is an armed conflict outside Russia. These people will be thrown into the meat grinder. Um, Now, in 2022, 320,000 people officially were called up. Unofficially, different numbers. No one can tell how many, but I take it from 500,000 to a million people. What happened to those folks? We don't know. Where are they now? At the cemeteries, that's where. Or they're missing in action. The reservists are next. They are to replace. They are the next wave of mobilization. Mobilization 2.0. And you know what? It's happening right now. Only those people in the Kremlin and around the Kremlin and taking orders from the Kremlin, they're so much smarter now. They don't go and publish this information anywhere. They hide it. They silence it. It's being done covertly. It's being done digitally. There are, well, I've heard of one manhunt in Moscow subway, but it's done not through manhunts any longer, but it's done according to the new laws and regulations and procedures and digital means that they have created in the last 3 years. Okay. So these people, the reservists, are the next. Had Putin had all those missiles for real, would he activate another mobilization? Albeit secret one, and it doesn't matter. Would he start calling up all those reservists? Would he start throwing them into the meat grinder? And that's a good question to ask and think about. Something to think about for all of us. Thank you very much for watching. Carthago delenda est.